Hey guys, Tuesday afternoon. How are you today? Hopefully everyone is well. And we're going to do a bit more development. And today we are going to look at teleporters and traps possibly, but first of all we're going to look at teleporters. So what I've done is I've done a material, okay? And that is our teleporter. Now what we really want to do is we have our teleporter here and we're going to add some stuff to this, right? So we're going to add this plane and then we are going to add a box collision. Okay. And we're going to do our box collision. Now it's going to be fairly small, so the player has to get quite close to it, and I'm probably going to do a marker on this one so that basically it does like a timer. So you're going to have to like hold down a button to get it to actually teleport, because we don't want the player to accidentally teleport and not realise what the hell is going on, right? So in the meantime we're going to overlap only pawn, okay, and we're going to check if this works by basically saying has tag, and then we're going to set this to player because our player has the tag of player, right? And then we're going to branch off of that. Now we've got a few defaults that we're going to set up in a moment or two, because a teleporter obviously moves to another teleporter, and then we'll do a few little gameplay tweaks on it, which will basically say something like, if you've used a teleporter, you're not allowed to use another teleporter for, let's say, 5 seconds or 10 seconds, right? So you can't jump between teleporters continuously. But we shall do that in a second, okay? What we want to do is make sure that we can actually bump into a teleporter. So we're going to save that and compile it, and then we'll run it. Yes, you could, if you wanted to. All you need to do is make it like invisible, right? And then attach it to a key press, like spacebar or whatever. In fact, at that point it wouldn't really be a teleporter, it would be more like an ability, like as you've put there. So you could do that, which would basically mean that you could remove all the part of the teleporter. Now I haven't got any monsters in here at the moment because I want to be able to run about and use teleporters and stuff, right? So basically, there we go, okay? So we've hit our branch and our player is true. So all the code after the overlap and all this would just go in your key press. But you'll have to bear in mind that if you're going to teleport, you'll need a target to teleport to. Okay? My main idea with this, by the way, last night, I don't know if I did it on stream or not, but here's the thing. What I wanted was, I wanted it as a render target so that you could actually see where you were teleporting to, and you would see the corridor that you were teleporting to, right? So that if you saw a bad guy in the other camera, right, you could basically not teleport, okay? That was the kind of idea that I had for this teleporter. Now, that wasn't working right because I think the render target has to be... Yes, you'd have to explain what you want to do a bit more, Aladius, right? I'm not quite getting how a teleporter works. I'll show you what I've got in mind, right? That two teleporters are basically linked together, right? Whereas I'm not sure where your teleport goes. If there's like a teleport target that's one place, right? Or if you're going to teleport to a random point, or I don't know, right? I don't get how you're going to work it, or how it... Now the other point is if it's like a teleport as in like a quickly, let's say it's an ability that moves you quickly to a target or closes the distance to a target, right, then yes. Right, okay, Haladis. Right, the way I would do this would be that you'd have to... Well, there's your first two issues, right? Number one, does the bad guy have to be facing away from you to be able to do the teleport, right? And number two, if that's the case, you're going to have to switch your teleport on and off, right? So you're going to have to find out if you're behind somebody. So I take it this is like an assassin thing, right? So you're not really doing a teleport as such. Right, so it's more like, I think it was in World of Warcraft, can't remember, but it was like a barbarian could do like a rush attack where he would just rush in. Right? It doesn't matter if you're facing the opponent, if the bad guy's facing you or not, all you're going to do is basically rush in to a distance, you know, X amount away from the bad guy and then start hitting. Right? If that's the case, then basically what I would do was set up an animation that does your rush animation, and then basically lerp from your current location to the finished target location, right? So it wouldn't really be a teleport at all. This teleport is for like if you're going to move quite a distance, right? So let's say the teleport's here, okay? And you want the other teleport to be over here, so you would actually be teleporting way over here. Yes, Aladius, your teleport doesn't seem to be a teleport at all. It just seems to be an ability that rushes you straight to an enemy, like from X distance, right? Now, what you'd have to do is make sure that you're facing the right direction, because let's say you want to hit that button, right? You're going to have to find out if there's any other enemies Well, Aladish, you're not really teleporting. All you're doing is rushing in. Either way, if it's not an assassin ability, then it doesn't matter if the enemy's facing you or not. It's just a rush to that enemy ability. Right? Which would basically, you could set an animation state, which would give you your rushing animation, and then basically you would just play that and then lerp from the current position of the character to the target destination, which would be X amount away from the target. Yes, you can. Right? Your problem is that, let's say you've got what you're really wanting to do, right? Sorry, we're not getting any development done here, but this is an interesting question. Right, well, the point is, and what you've got to do when you're doing things like this is you've got to think of the problems first. Right, now, one big problem I can see is if there's more than one enemy. Okay? So say you've got an enemy over here, right? I'm pointing at the screen now, right? So you've got an enemy here, and you've got an enemy here, right? And you, let's say, are here. Okay? Okay, I'll tell you what. Let's show you my absolutely terrible drawing. Right, so we'll do it with little circles. Little circles sound good. Right, so this is the position of the player, right? This is the position of enemy A. This is position of enemy B. Okay? Okay, so now you're talking about tab targeting, okay? Which is another subject. Right? Now, that would mean that you would have to have a lock-on to a particular target, right? So that brings in another Aladius, you're changing the goalposts all the time here, right? You've got to stick to one thing, how it's going to work, right? First you just said you're facing a bad guy, right? So tab targeting would be a completely different matter, okay? Because if you're tab targeting, then that solves a lot of the problems, right? But it probably adds a few more. Yeah, tab targeting would be a solution, but it might not be the solution you want. So what I'm trying to do here is show you how I would approach it in the way that you first explained, right? So if this is your player, right, this guy here is your player. You've got two enemies, enemy A, enemy B. Okay? If you're forward, okay, we don't want to do that. Right? So if I go to draw a line, where the frick's, right here, right, okay. So basically, your problem is if you're facing this way, right, you won't be hitting, right. Your problem is which one are you going to select? right? Now, if you're facing in the middle, then you don't need to select any, right? Because basically the player isn't facing anything, so he can't rush at anybody, okay? So, if he's facing more this way, right, towards A, then what I would do was, I'm going to do this in text for you, right? I would fire out line traces, okay? So let's zoom in on that a bit. So I'd fire out line traces, and if it hits A, I would set the target. So it would be if hit, then set target, okay? Then I would say if target set, then allow rush ability, okay? And then rush ability sets destination to target. Does that make sense? So basically when I sent out, if I was to send out a line trace, right, I would send out more than one. I would set them at like angles. So you'd set one straight, you would fire one here, let's say you would fire one here, and that's a curvy one for some reason, and then I'd set one here. I'd maybe send out 5 at various slightly different angles so that it'll find out, you'll get a reasonable chance that it's going to, you know, see this target, okay? And then if you hit it, then you're setting your target against the bad guy. If the target is set, then you allow the rush ability, and then the rush ability basically moves you to, let's say, here, right? Okay, so does that make sense? Yes. Yes, it's used to find out if there's something in front of you. Okay? Or depending on the direction, right? But normally the use would be like firing a gun, right? It basically shoots out a line from a position to another position, and you give it a length, okay? And that's basically it. And I can show you that now, so don't save that. Right, so say I wanted to do a line trace on my character. Okay, so basically if I go move here, what I want to do is shoot a line straight out in front of me, okay, for a set distance. Okay, so let's look at a line trace and what you can do with a line trace. So if I go to my controller, which is actually in first person blueprints. Okay, and if I set up an event tick, okay, now you would normally not do this in an event tick. This is going to be coming off your ability button press, okay? But what I can do is say line trace, if I can spell it right, that is. And line trace by channel, right? And what you have here is a start point and an end point, okay? And this is where it gets kind of interesting. So what I can do is get self, so I'm getting a reference to the controller, right? And I can say get forward vector. Okay, so I want to fire it out where I'm looking, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to split this, because I'm going to set the Z to be at a certain height so that we can see it. Then we can split this struct, right? And then that you could, if, well, you could, yeah. But I would normally use breakpoint to find out why your rolling isn't working. I would have to know what use case that you're actually using is to find out exactly how to find out how to debug your code, right? Because it depends on the use case what you want to do, right? Now, the question is, can I remember how to do this? There's a simple calculation here. Right? And that's wrong. This is actually just going to be get location. Right. It's going to be get location. Right, and we're going to split that. So we're going to start for our player location at 100 on the Z, but the X and Y is going to come for the player. Right, one thing at a time here, I'll add this because I'm trying to show you what a line trace is. Right, so we're going to finish it at 100 on the Z. But what we're going to do now is we're going to get our forward vector, right? And then we're going to multiply. Okay, we're not going to do that. We're going to get this forward vector, right? And we're going to multiply by a float. Except it's not X. We're going to multiply vector by float, and then we're going to have it 500 units, right? And then we're going to get the location again, and I should have typed an actor location. Actor location. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add these together. it's vector plus vector. So we're going to add these together. Then we're going to split the struct, and then we're going to plug end x and end y in here. Okay, and then so that we can see it, we're going to draw the debug line persistent. Okay, and now if I've done this right, there's the line, red line. Okay, and that's what a line trace does. Now if I move it, it'll gradually move forward, and then if we turn, you'll notice that we're now showing lots of lines there. As we move forward and turn around, these are going to be hitting stuff or not hitting stuff. Okay, now when it turns green, we're actually hitting stuff. You can see that there. So the next part of this is we can check what we actually hit from coming out, right? So we can say branch off of this, okay, and then if we've hit something, we can do something, and what we can do is find out what we hit. So we can break our hit result, and we can get where we hit, impact point, normals, physical material, we can get the actor. So in this case, what we can do is we can just say hit actor, get display name, and then we can print string. We can plug this in here. We can say true. Yes. But normally you won't have the line trace showing, right? This is just for debug. But we'll now be able to, right, you'll notice we're not hitting anything, right, because there's no display, but you'll notice now I'm hitting stuff, right, and it's all being printed out. We're not hitting anything anymore. Now we're hitting stuff, we're hitting stuff, we're hitting stuff, right? We can move up and we can hit stuff again. We can hit lots of stuff. So you can see what we're hitting. Right, we're hitting stuff again. And you can see it actually prints on our minimap as well, which is a bit bizarre, but anyway. Right? And that's how a line trace works. Okay? So basically what I'll do is I shall zoom out a bit, and there is how you fire off a line trace. You get your actor location and the forward. This is if like you're firing a gun as well, and first person does exactly the same thing, right? If you're using like a laser gun, which doesn't have any bullet drop. Well, the easiest way is if you right click on a node, you can add breakpoint. Okay? And then when we press play, it will stop there. Right? And then we can check values coming out of stuff. We can check values going into stuff and see if we're getting the results we expect. And then depending on the version of Unreal Engine you're using, well, it's kind of supposed to be a little bit horror, but now you use step into, step over and step out, right, to jump through the code. So basically if I step over, it doesn't do anything, and that's because this is false, right? So it's nowhere to go. Okay? Now, if I was to disable that, then we run as normal once we hit resume. I can add the breakpoint here and then press resume, right? And then now if I step over, it jumps to this one. And this is false. So it's basically just going to jump back to where we were because it's going to fire out another line trace. Okay, step into as if you've got a function or a macro, and that takes you into that macro. Step out of is basically the same thing in reverse, and that's how you use your breakpoints. Okay, you should always use your breakpoints as well as print strings to find out like what a value is that you're expecting. Right, these buttons look slightly different in Unreal Engine 5, but they are there, right? They're like just little arrows, but you have the same options in Unreal Engine 5 as you do in Unreal Engine 4. So these are still there. But mostly this code is exactly the same in Unreal Engine 5 as it is in 4, because Unreal Engine 5 uses basically 4.27 plus Lumen plus Nanite, right? So you won't see too many differences between this. I think the only difference you'll have is like this is a tiny bit different, but that's about it. You should be able to work it out. But you use the same breakpoints, resumes, all the rest of it as you do in Unreal Engine 5. So we'll delete that, and that showed you how to do a line trace, right? And that's how you can use the line trace to go and hit your baddies, and if it does hit a baddie, then you can set the target, and obviously you can use a distance because your rush will have a distance, therefore you can set that up in your line trace, so if it hits nothing you know that you're not in range. Okay, hi there Game Debix or Game Debix Studio, nice to see you. Okay, so you can use your line trace for various different things. Always be aware that it's available to you. And now can we get on with the teleporter, I suppose? No worries, Eladius. That's what we're here for. We like to help people out who are having trouble or questions. Right, so this is our teleporter, right? And we're going to do something with our teleporter. And what we're going to do is we're going to set up its opposite number, right? So what we're going to say is ref, and we'll call it, well, it's, what is it? It's not its opposite. It's, let's say connected. We'll call it connected TP. Ah, that brings back memories. TP. Used to play a game where one of the classes could teleport a player back to where the teleporter was, like he was a wizard. And they would be online, and if you got into trouble you'd be screaming TP. Anyway, interesting story, not? Right. So what we're going to do is we're going to say BP underscore, and it's going to be another teleporter, right? I think that underscore does something. I think that underscore actually like stops focus, right? And what we're going to do with that is we're now going to compile it, and we're going to set it to be pickable in the level, right? Now the reason I'm doing that, I'm going to show you, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to actually move these out of the game, or out of the level, well, not out of the level, but in a place where we can actually work on them and see what's going on for the sake of you guys, right? But what we're going to do is we're going to set our outside directional light to 10 so that we can actually see, okay? Then we're going to move our teleporter out of here, and I'll show you how I would probably go around setting this up, right? So if I duplicate this teleporter and move it to here, right, we've got two different teleporters, okay? And now if I click on that teleporter, I can actually now click on the pipette and select that teleporter, right? And now I can select this teleporter, pipette, select that teleporter. So now each of the teleporters, these two teleporters know about the other one, okay? So I can now reference them and find out the position of the other one and basically teleport to that one's position. Okay? Now, let's think of another way to do it. That's a pretty straightforward, easy way to do it. Okay? Now, another way we could do it is we could basically add another variable, and we could call it, let's say, TP index. Okay? And we could basically say our TP index is an integer. Okay? And what we could do here is, in the event graph, we could search for the other one with the same index. Okay? So if we set this to editor visible, right, we can select this and we need to do that. We've now got a TP index. Okay? And we've got the other one, which is the TP index. And now what we could do is in our event begin play, right, we could get all, we could do it, well, okay, what we could do is we could set up a tag for our teleporters. Okay? So let's do that just to show you how we could go about that. What we could do is say BP teleport, right? Then we come down to our actor, we click on that, we add a tag, and we call it TP. Okay? We can save that, and then on begin play we can say get actors with tag, and we can say TP. Okay? And then what we can do is we can say for each, and we can do this with a break, right? Because if it find, oh, actually we can't, right? Because we might find ourselves. Yeah, we can do, actually, yeah, we can. We can do it with a break. And we could doesn't really matter, we'll just do a for each, right? We could think about the logic of that one, right? We can find all actors of class. Now remember, this is probably going to find itself, right? So we do equals, and we get a reference to self. And is that right? Yeah, get a reference to self. Right, so if we find ourselves, we don't do anything, right? So what I'm going to do here is say not equal boolean, and then we're going to branch off of this, and we're going to say branch. Okay. Then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to have to cast this to a teleporter. Now we could have done it with tag, or we could have just done get actor by class teleporter, but this is just to show you ways to do it, right? So we're going to get this, and then we're going to say get index, get TP index, right? And then we're going to get a reference to self again, right? And then off self, we're going to say TP index, right? And if these two are equal, then this is its opposite, right? This is its corresponding teleporter. Okay? So we can do it manually by selecting it in our editor, or we can do it programmatically with where we set up a variable and giving them the same index. Okay, now if this is the same index, then we're going to say self, and we're going to set up ref TP connected. Okay. And then this is going to be this one here. Okay. So if we save this, this will probably not work and I'll look like a complete idiot, right? But what we can do is we should be able to remove these references and then if we run it, and then we get our teleporters, you'll notice that one's got TP2, which is this one, and this one should have teleporter, which is that one. Right, so they are now automatically setting themselves up with its opposite and corresponding teleporter. Okay? So, does everybody get that? Have you got any questions on that? If you want me to go through the code again, explain what I was doing there. Let me know. So what we're doing is, with our teleporter, we're getting all of the teleporters in the level. Then we're checking that it's not equal to the teleporter that's checking for its corresponding one. And if it's not, we cast it to the teleporter. Then we check the index against the current one that's checking, right? So let's say the one we're checking has an index of 0, then we're checking the other ones for an index of 0. And if that's true, we're saying set this up as the corresponding index and reference, okay? And what we end up with is teleporter finds teleporter 2, and teleporter 2 finds teleporter. Okay? So that basically is an example of an object basically setting itself up, right, at runtime. Okay? As I said, as I showed you earlier, we can set it up in the editor by using the pipette, right? But if you've got like a busy editor and where you're actually putting, normally what I would do is, if I was doing it with the pipette, right, what I would actually do is I would actually do this, right? I would set these up and then I would move them into position. Okay, so initially I would set these up and then put one over here, put one over here, etc, etc. You see how it gets a bit iffy, right? So basically I would set the pipettes and then I would move these into position, right? But now that I've set them up that they can go and find their opposing number, I can basically set these up and just put them wherever I want, and it doesn't matter, right? So the beauty of this is, what I can do is, if I delete these, right, now what I can do is I can add them back in, right? So let's add them back in, and say I wanted one over here, right? I can move that into position. I'm just going to do it outside so that you guys can see it, right? But what I can do there, and then I can set the index here. I can say, right, you're going to be index 1, right? And then I can actually just duplicate it, and then we'll obviously have an index 1 there as well, right? So they're going to find each other because they know the index that they're going to use to find the other corresponding teleporter. So now when I run it, now these TP indexes could be anything, right? So we've got teleporter, right, and it's found teleporter 2 as it did before, right? And we've got teleporter, which is finding, sorry, this is called teleporter 2, and its opposing, or its corresponding teleporter is just teleporter, right? Now, the beauty of this is that I can basically keep doing this for as long as I like, right? I can duplicate, let's say we duplicate this again, right? And I can move this, let's say, over to here, right? And then what I can do is I can set it to 4, right? And it doesn't matter what index I use as long as I set another one up with a corresponding index, okay? So we now have teleporter 3 and 4, right? So if I press play on this, then we can press teleporter 3 and its corresponding one is teleporter 4. And if we press teleporter 4, its corresponding one is teleporter 3. Okay? So there's a couple of ways that you can set that up. And I'm going to have a quick break for 2 minutes. I'm going to grab a cigarette and a drink. So if you're enjoying the stream or getting anything out of it, hit like and subscribe, and check out the description to join my Discord, and also find links to Patreon and my previous game on Steam. And I shall be back in 2 minutes. Don't go anywhere, guys. Okay, guys, we're back. Can Mr. Spock let me know if he's in the chat, please? And if so, I shall show you how to set things up for level jumping and stuff. Mr. Spock, if you're there, let me know. Right. I'll do this anyway, right? Just as a final sort of caveat on the teleporter. Okay? Just as a little, another little thing that you could allow this to do. Okay. So say you wanted to extend the functionality of our teleporter. Okay. So we're going to have a teleporter, but we're going to have two different types of teleporter, but we're going to have the two types of teleporter basically within one. Okay, so what we could do is we can add another variable and say, let's say level jumper. Okay, and we could set that as a bool, and then we could say level name, and we could set that as a name, right? And we'll make these both again visible. Okay, now the point here would be we would check if it's a level jumper and branch off of this, right? Okay, so we've checked if the player has ran into the teleporter. Okay, now if it's not a level teleporter, a level jumper, oh, we need one more thing, right? We need a variable and one more variable, and it's going to be, oh, okay, we actually don't, because we can use the level jumper thing, right? So what we want to do here is, if it's a level jumper, we don't try and find its opposite number. Okay, so we get the level jumper, and then we say branch. Okay, and basically if it's false, we set up its opposite, right? Now if it's a level jumper, it doesn't have an opposite, so we don't even try and set it up. Okay, so that's how this would look in reality when we've set that up. And then when we come into our overlap, if it's a level jumper, right, then we just say basically open level by name, and then we bring in our level name. We plug that in, we set that to true. Okay, and if it's false, basically what we do is we get our connected, right, and then what we do is we get the scene component, which is actually going to be the target position, which we've not set up yet, but basically then what we do is we set the world location. Hang on a second till I block this guy. Okay, so then what we'd do was we'd get our pawn, so let's say get a reference to self, then we would set world location, oh, that's interesting. Ah, this isn't self, right? we'd actually, what we'd do here is we'd say get player controller, it doesn't happen very often, Mr. Spock, to be honest. You're lucky if it happens once every couple of days, but thank you for the offer. Right, so in this case, yeah, Mr. Spock, I'm doing this for you here, by the way. This is the point where you'd set it up as jump in a level or jump in position, right? So we'd cast to, in this case, this isn't get player controller. This is get pawn. Right, and this is cast to Pawn Chronicles, and then here you would say set world location, in fact you'd be setting actor set actor location, right? So we'd basically be going through this. I've not got the, what I'd have to do is, wait a minute, this is our teleporter, right? So what we'd need here is a scene component, and we'd call it target location, right? And then we'd actually move it, and we're not on the target location. So let's say it was something like that, right? So now what we'd do is in our event graph we would get target location, right, and we'd say world location, then we'd split this struct, right, and we'd split that, and we would say X and Y, because all we're really interested in is the X and the Y, right? And here we would get actor location. Now if this was on different floors, then we'd obviously have to set to the position here, but if it's all on one floor or all on one level, then we would plug that in there, right? So now what we can do is we can set our level name, let's say, and we can default it to main menu, okay? Then we can press play. You'll see why I press play in a minute, right? We'll press stop, and that brings us back to here, right? And then what we can do, let's say we'll put our teleporter back here. Right, and Is it facing? Yeah, it's facing the wrong way. Not that it matters, but so now this teleporter, we're going to set it to a level jumper, okay? And if we press play now, this should take us straight back to the level, okay? If I spelt it wrong or something, or is it just needing to load? Or have I got a breakpoint in here? Yeah, I've got a breakpoint. What an idiot. Disable. Resume. There you go. So now we have a teleporter that jumps points and jumps levels. Okay? So now what we want to do is we want to delete that one out. Well, no, we don't. We'll just leave that one there. And we shall get teleporter 3. Okay, so where is teleporter 3? There, it's there. And if we put it right at the start, right, there it's there. Right. So we can add that one there, right? And let's say it's going to jump us to the end of this thing here, right? So we'll be able to see out fundamentally. So all I need to do is select 4, which is over here, drag it over here a bit, then drag it here, okay, then drag it over here a bit, and I think we need to spin it round. Right, then it'd be easier if I just put it here first, then here, then here. And there it's there. Then we can add it to there, right? So now if we press play and we turn around, right? There we go, we're at the end, you see? And then this one is going to jump us back. Ta-da! So there you have a teleporter. Okay, pretty cool, huh? And then obviously we've got our original one which jumps us back to the main menu. Okay. Now, the one more thing I would do in this particular case is I would add another variable, and I would call it in use, right? And that's going to be a boolean, and it's going to default to false. Right? And basically what I would say is this is not going to work if it's true. So to keep it tidy, I'm going to say not. Right? I would also probably make these invisible. Okay? At this point, I would set up something else so that it would either the material would go flat or they would become invisible for the amount of time that I'm doing this. But what I would say was I would branch on this, right? So if it's in use, you're not allowed to use it. Okay? And then what I would say at the end of this would be we would set in use to true. Right? And then what I would do I would add a custom event, and I'd say reset in use, and then I would add a delay on that, or what I would do is just basically say, I'll show you, there's a couple of ways we could do this, right? But I'd set in use to false again, right? And basically what I would do was, you could do it either with a delay of 5 seconds or however much time you want in this event. You could set up a delay in here, or you could basically set timer by function name. Then we'd call this reset in use. Then you can put the time whatever you want, 5 seconds. It's not going to loop. Right? Now there is something we're going to have to do here. And basically what it's going to be is we're going to get this one, and we're going to do exactly the same thing. Right? So we're going to say set in use. Is true. Right, because obviously the one you're jumping to is the one that you're concerned about. So this would do them both, right? Is probably the safer option. But if they're pretty close together, then you could probably muck it up by not setting them both, right? So we can basically we can duplicate that and do the same thing there, right? And that's going to basically stop us using this for 5 seconds. Okay, so if we press play now, then we can jump through here, right? But you'll notice nothing happens, right? Now the 5 seconds was obviously up there, right? We can't do anything, then we can jump, right? So probably that would obviously be far too short a time. So let's set it to 20 seconds. Now there is easier ways of doing this. What we could do is we could do the delay in here and then set it to a variable for how long each of these actually takes to reset, right? And that would give us even more options. But if we now set that to 20 seconds, we can jump, and we can't jump, 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 we still can't jump, and now we can jump. Okay, now as I said, my sort of way of doing stuff like this is to make it better. Just make it better all the time, right? Add something that makes it better. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it better. Right, so in effect what I'm going to do is I'm going to add another custom event, right? And I'm going to say hide plane. Then I'm going to go drag this in, and I'm going to say hidden, set hidden in game to true, right? And then I'm going to add another custom event that's going to be show plane. Now you could obviously do a flip-flop on this, right? But we'll just carry on with what we're doing. Okay. There's other ways you can do this, right? But we're just going to go carry on with this. And we're going to say show plane. Okay. And then what we're going to do in here is we're going to hide plane. And that's going to go here. Now we could obviously actually do all of, well, this part, even though it's not that much, we could do that in a custom event itself. But so this is going to be hide plane as well. You can set that there. Save that. And now when we jump through the plane, it's going to set itself to hidden. Right, so we jump through and there's nothing there. Right? Now if we wait for 60 seconds, it will come back. And that gives us our indicator for whether the teleporter is operational again. Okay, Come on. Do your thing. Ah, wait a minute. Wait a minute. So that's hide plane. Hide plane. Right, we'll change these down to 5 seconds again so that we can get a quick view of what's actually going on. Right. And show plane should be that. And if we jump in now, we can turn around, jump in there, nothing there as you see, and now it's there again. Okay, so we can jump in there, turn around, nothing there. Where has the teleporter gone? There it's there. Boom. There you go. Now, the other thing what I was going to do was basically you have to hit a key, okay? So, what we could do on this is we can add that you have to hit a key, okay? We'd have to change things about a bit, but we can do it. We can say, or can we, actor on clicked, input touch. We can't really do that. We could do it on the player or on the pawn, which would allow it to work. Let's see. No, but don't do that. Point down, should tick, touch enter, touch leave. No, we're not going to use that. Yeah, we're not going to use that, but we could have done it. We could do it here, I believe. Yeah. Possibly not. What we want is on mouse down. Alright. Yeah, I don't know. I wonder. Yeah, you can get button pressed off of this. Right, so we could do an override on this. And we could put it on here on the begin overlap. We could do an override on this. Right, we'll have the same code, but we make sure that a button's being pressed at the same time. Right. Right, so let's see if we can do that. Actor begin overlap, right? You see that doesn't have a button press on it. so that's no good. Right, I am going to go and grab a quick comfort break. I shall be right back in a minute. Don't go anywhere. Okay guys, we're back. Now if anybody's got any questions or another way or something else you want me to make a teleporter to do, then let me know. That's really all I had in mind. Not even for the level jumping, but it shows you that you can extend like the teleporter to do more than one thing, like do the level jump and also do the teleporter thing within the same blueprint. Okay, and not a lot of code really. I could probably actually bring this back a bit and make it a bit more efficient, but it works in the way that we actually wanted it to work. Okay. Now, our next thing that we wanted to have a look at was a trap. In particular, a spiky trap. And I brought in some assets, or in particular one sort of model to get this to work, and I can't remember where to put it, unless I did have a, it's in here. Right, so this is our spiky trap. Okay, now there's a bit that isn't quite working, and it's this part here. It's when it resets. I'll show you this in a second, right? And what we're going to do is we're going to get TL underscore we're going to set rate, set play rate, right, and we're going to have to set this twice. We're going to set this to 1, and we're going to set this to 0.33, right, and we're going to see if this actually works. And this one is going to go reverse from end, and that's going to go there. And that's actually not right. So we're going to delete that. And this is actually going to be a flip-flop, right? So we're going to say flip-flop, right? And this is actually going to go in here. And this is actually going to go there. That's going to go there. Now we are going to put some stuff in between this, right? Like, for example, we're going to stick a delay in here of 2 seconds. And we probably want another we're probably going to need a variable in here. We're going to say move down, just call it down, right? And let's start tidying this up a bit. I don't think Saughton looks exactly like a mansion. And to be fair, I've never really saw Saughton. By the way, for anybody that's watching that doesn't know, Saughton Prison is a rather notorious prison in Scotland. Right? So we're going to say if this, we're going to branch on this, and if down is true, right? So we're going to branch. Right, if down is true, we want to delay for, let's say, 20 seconds. And if it's not, we move down. Right? Yeah, we know ZGT, we know that there's an Unreal Engine 5. Right, so what we want to do is we want to look at the viewport and simulate. Right, oh damn it. Right, so it actually did it there. Well, that doesn't seem to be working. Right. So let's add a breakpoint here. That's not actually going to work. Right, I'm going to viewport that. Okay. And I'm guessing that is breaking. Or no, it's not. Well, the easiest way to do this, is basically to call itself when it's finished. Right, and that just goes in there. Right, so in theory it should just go down and up again. Wait a minute. Right, so that's not doing it. Have we got something? Operate trap. Right, that should not be looping. And we can do that to start in 2 seconds. Well, that's interesting. That was kind of right. That's kind of right, apart from the delay. Right? It's kind of right apart from this part. Take away this. What we want it to do, right, is drop down fast, then basically it should just move down, right, which will then basically flip it to go back up again after 2 seconds, right, and then it should wait for 20 seconds and then go back down again. Right? So 1, 2, have I got this the wrong way around? Alright, I'm going to need to change the time. Yeah, I think I got these the wrong way around. Right, so what I'm going to do is say 5. Right, and I think these are the wrong way around. . So basically we want to do that. And now it should fire on 2 seconds, and then well, that's kind of weird. Right, this is a bit weird, to say the least. Right, if we go finished, and we just move down, press play. Oh, that was the problem. I pressed bloody play instead of... Right, why are you not going back up? Right. Go here. Simulation. Down. 1, 2, back up. It's not going back up. Why are you not going back up? No, that was actually the right way around. If it's false, we don't delay. If it's true, we delay for 5. Okay. Save that. Then we don't press that. Sequence them. We don't want to sequence them. And go to viewport. They're already on a flip-flop. There's something weird going on here. I'll tell you what I'm going to do, right? This might not work because it's... Right, we'll do that. We'll press play. That's interesting. There we go. Now it is kind of working, but it's not quite right, if you know what I mean. Now, there's something weird about this. I think it's this play rate thing. I think it's this play rate that's doing something weird. It looks to me like when it comes in here, it's not moving at first. It seems to reach a certain point and then does something. Right, so I think that is the issue with this. It's as if on the Z it's not showing it moving, but it is actually moving. Right? And it might actually be that I need to just set up this trap again. I mean, in theory it is kind of working, but it's not working exactly how I want. In fact, it's kind of working in the opposite direction I want. But that gives you an idea of a first trap anyway. Right. And you'll notice I can't run through it. Okay. Right, well, I think that's about it for this afternoon. So if you've enjoyed the stream, hit like and subscribe. This is the part I hate, which is the shilling part. And check out the description for Discord and ways that you can support the channel through Patreon or my previous game. And thank you very much for watching, and I shall see you at 8 PM Central tonight. So bye bye for now.